When I first started playing Marvel Rivals, the very first question I asked was, is Deadpool in the game? And when I realized the answer to that question was no, I started to skim over the list of heroes that were available to play to see if there was anything that interested me. Lo and behold, there was not a single character within the opening pages who I thought was interesting or entertaining, which isn't really that surprising given that I never really had a history with Marvel IPs. If the character wasn't in Fortnite, I probably didn't know who the hell they were, unless they were the Fantastic Four. However, just before I was about to close the game for trying my patience with its really shitty UI integration system on PS4 controllers, Spiderman caught my eye. As soon as I saw him, I thought to myself, yeah, I really enjoyed the web shooter inside of Fortnite. What's the worst that can happen? I load up the practice range, select him to see if he plays like how I'm going to think, and immediately I fell in love. This is by far the most unique character in the game, and it was love at first sight. I proceeded to spend the first 2 hours of my Marvel Rivals gameplay experience in the practice range just trying to see how this character worked. Unfortunately for me, I still have video footage of, at the time, what I thought was extremely impressive Spider-Man combos, and by the time I loaded into my first match, I already more or less knew what I would have to do to acquire that fabled one-shot combo. However, as you likely expected, that's not what happened. My idealized fantasy of figuring out how the character works, going into the match, and shit-stomping everybody was quite far from the reality I was in for. I proceeded to go 0-3 for that entire game that I was locked on Spider-Man, not managing to get so much as a single kill, and 3 minutes in I swapped to Iron Fist, wherein I proceeded to get 11 kills in a very short period of time. And after that game, I realized I didn't much care for Iron Fist, switched to Hawkeye, and for the next 4 hours did nothing but shit on everybody in my lobby until Skillbase finally caught up with me. Playing Spider-Man in Marvel Rivals from beginning to end has been nothing short of an absolutely miserable experience, yet for some reason I keep insta-locking this character just to satiate my enjoyment. And now, 23 hours of pain and suffering later, I am officially a lord on the character. And for this video, I just wanted to give you all some general advice and talk about my experience with this whole process. So to make this very clear from the start, if you are trying to play Spider-Man because you think he's overpowered or that you can become really good on him or the next Necros, or maybe you think he's a top tier hidden, stealth pick, I'm gonna go ahead and shatter that reality for you right now. On a basic fundamental level, virtually every single DPS in this game outclasses Spider-Man and/or has some means of countering him, with the sole exception of the Human Torch and Iron Man. You would unironically be better off picking and learning any other character than you would be using Spider-Man, unless the only thing you are trying to get out of this interaction is the fun factor of using him. And I know that that sounds kind of demoralizing, but at a fundamental level, that is the truth. It doesn't matter how many people you see suggesting otherwise, he is not a good character. He's a fun character, but he's not going to be topping the tier list anytime soon, even with the recent buffs. So that being said, what can you realistically expect on your journey with Spider-Man? How is it going to go from you? And to that, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The first several hours on this character is going to suck monumental amounts of ass. You can go in the practice range and try hard as much as you like, but nothing is going to prepare you for what an actual game requires you to do. Spider-Man is a character who is very hands-on, and you aren't going to learn him unless you go into a real game. When you are using this character, it is your job to not only understand how he works on a technical level, but to understand the maps that you are playing on, where the health pickups are, the optimal flanking routes, and just when and when not to strike. This is something that you will hear people say a lot, and it is something that didn't click with me until, I'm not kidding, like the last 30 games I played the character. But when you are playing Spider-Man, you are not a frontline assassin, you are a backline assassin, and it is your job to get behind people. You should never, at any point, rush the enemy where they can see you in their direct line of sight. You need to constantly be going in from behind, even if it means slowing down. And I know, that sounds blasphemous if you're playing Spider-Man, but it's true. Your job as Spider-Man is to deviate from your team and try and turn the game into a 6v5 as soon as possible, and then go help your team to clean up the mess that may be be left behind. And the literal best way of doing this is to use your advanced movement speed to get towards the enemy area and or behind the enemy area and jump them before they know what's happening, even if sometimes that means clinging onto a wall and just waiting for your moment. When you play Spider-Man, you don't even really need to know things like B-hops or like how to maintain momentum out of a swing as much as you just need to understand the core fundamental of jumping the new guy. I didn't even bother trying to learn B-hops with this character until I was like 10 hours in, and even now I still can't web pull somebody off a map, and maybe that's because I'm on a controller, but still it's not something I can do. When you play Spider-Man, you will be rewarded based on your knowledge of the fundamentals, but not the fundamentals that everybody else has, the fundamentals that he has. This is not something I'm saying for effect or to sound cool or to make Spider-Man players feel special, but Spider-Man is categorically unlike every other player in the game. He does not have the same playstyle. When you move as fast and are as squishy as Spider-Man is, you can't really contribute to team fights in the traditional sense, and as a melee character, you're not able to just stick with your team and help them out when they're in danger. You have to play by your own rules. Your job is look, scout, attack, leave, and then the second that opportunity is gone, you wait for another and you go in and do that. And make no mistake, it does not matter how much you understand about this character, it's not really going to help you. I right now, for example, know a combo that can theoretically kill a 250 HP target in an effective 12 frames after landing the startup punch, but I've never been able to do it in a real game because people are naturally going to interfere with that. I can 0 to death combo a Doctor Strange, but you'll never see me actually do that because it's not very realizable. And that's just some of the things I found personally. There are people who understand how to like do a backwards momentum jump all the way across the map, but again, these just are things that aren't very realizable. For every practical bit of tech on a Spider-Man, there's like 3 or 4 bits of tech that are just completely unusable and only serve to pad out what he can and can't do. And as you play this character more, you will find very quickly that people do not enjoy it. Namely, there will be people on the enemy team who will counterpick you specifically if you're having a good game. Furthermore, there will be people who will literally dedicate their lives to killing you just purely out of spite. And even beyond all of that, since Spider-Man's attack pattern is admittedly rather linear with very few deviation beyond fakeouts, most people can more or less figure out exactly what you're going to do and kill you for it. And as if all of that wasn't bad enough, even after playing this character for 22 hours, you can occasionally get into a game where even if the people aren't as good as you, you won't be able to do anything to them purely because their team lineup just hard counters you. I was playing a match the other day where I was going up against a Luna Snow, an Iron Fist, a Thing, a Hela, and a Neymar, and I forget what the 6th person on that list was, but in that specific game, even though I had 22 hours on this character and a firm understanding, I could not do anything with him. I was completely at the mercy of the enemy team, and some characters are better at shutting down Spider-Man than others. I mean, Neymar means you basically can't web sling by without being noticed anymore, and the Thing has an ability that literally disables your entire kit. Even your web sling won't work anymore. Do you have any idea how frustrating that is to have a character who needs his entire kit to get just 1 kill, and then just the character over here just makes it to where you can't use it anymore? And then even beyond that, sometimes attacks don't work. You'll get stuck on walls when you shouldn't. You'll get killed because your wall climb activated, or your momentum fucked itself up and sent you careening down to the floor. There's things you just cannot control. And then occasionally you'll get like a team up with Venom, which doubles your firepower, and then just all of a sudden they swap off the character in the middle of your combo and you die for it. These are things that happen all the time on Spider-Man, and I find that the most common thing on all Spider-Mans, more than anything else, is just this overarching sense of frustration. You will have great games and you will have shit games, but you will find more often than not that you are putting in 20 times the work as everybody else and you are still somehow bottom fragging even compared to the healers. You will not get MVP nearly as often with Spider-Man as you do any other character on the roster, and that doesn't feel particularly good. But worse yet, the second you swap to anybody else, going back to Spider-Man doesn't feel as good as it used to anymore. Once you understand just how powerful other characters are in comparison with first-hand experience, you just kind of get to the point where you think, why do I bother playing this character if I can't do anything on him, which is why I say, if you really, really want to play Spider-Man, then make sure that you're doing it because you actually enjoy the character. While he has highs, they don't really make up for the inconceivably large valleys of lows that makes up his average gameplay loop. The time you spend waiting for resources to come back or just trying to make do with the very little you have at your disposal is going to make up a vast majority of your time on this character. But Spider-Man, as a character, has always been defined as resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity, and I guess in that respect, he is, more or less, the fantastic or amazing Spider-Man. I can't say it feels good though, and while yes, you will have moments where you shine brighter than any star, you will have dozens where you just kind of fester out and you just lose. Even within my last 10 matches, I had people yelling at me on microphone because I wasn't really able to do anything, and it doesn't ever feel good. And even now, 23 hours of gameplay later, I can't really tell you with a fair amount of certainty if that feeling will ever go away. I mean, when I'm having games that are so consistently bad I'm looking up why is Spider-Man fucking awful on my cell phone, that's not a very good sign. But again though, if you ultimately just enjoy the character like me, I think you'll find there's a lot to love in the journey of getting that Lord icon. That's gonna be all for me, boys. Until I feel like talking about video games again, I will see you all around. Farewell.